All right. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Cool. So let's see. Can everyone hear me? I think everyone can hear me. Yeah, I think so. Cool. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We have a few questions that basically I'm set up to start working on answering for you all. The idea of today's stream is again, right? This is sort of like an open presentation. Oh, you know what? This is not getting the SAT reading right. Let me go ahead and change that for us. There we go. You know what? This should probably be something even more straightforward. SAT Q&A. Let's just change that. There we go. Awesome. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Phil Danaus. I am the director of operations at Rio Progress, and my main priority is to make sure that all of our students, whether it is as a part of cohort, which is our college readiness initiative, or if it's adults trying to, transition into a new role professionally, that they are able to utilize their options to best serve them. So the general idea of what I'm doing today when it comes to talking about the SAT is I know that everyone's like, oh, should I be taking the SAT? And the idea generally is yes, you should be taking the SAT. If you are a student coming from a Title I school, you should be taking the SAT. If you don't have completely perfect grades and you want to be able to showcase your ability to learn and be competitive in that sense, you should be taking the SAT. So it's really, really important that we are able to discuss that and talk about that. So let me see. Okay, looks like my stream is live. It's just, I guess, just my view of it isn't working too hot, but that's okay. So basically, the idea is for today, right? Like, we're going to be discussing specifically just what are some of the common questions people have about the SAT? What are some of the things that you feel like you may need to prepare for when thinking about the SAT? And we will go ahead and discuss a little bit about what some of the best practices are related to the SAT. So I do have, let's see, do I show these slides? Yeah, why not? Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and show these slides. Why not? Here. So let me go ahead and get started. Sorry, y'all. I am Boomer. This is going to take a little bit. Properties. Yeah, let's go there. Public viewing link. That's not it. Let's see if we can get this to work real quick for you guys. Uh-huh. Perfect. Awesome. It's going to look a little weird. It's going to look a little janky, but that's okay. We're here basically to just make sure that you guys are as ready as you possibly can be for when it comes to the SAT. Ooh, here we go. I should probably update the chat browser to something that people can actually see as well. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. You guys should see my little presentation going on. Awesome, you guys do. Cool. So let's go ahead and get started with talking about the SAT and exactly how you're going to master the SAT, of course, with RP. We're trying new styles today, right? So we have a marketing intern. So go ahead and give us feedback, but she's been working on some of our stuff, and this is one of her first assignments. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the common questions. And of course, if you guys have questions, please drop them in the chat. I am monitoring the chat. For those of you who are subscribed to Rio Progress, I sent out in advance to you all, like all of the not just the live stream, but also a Google Meet where you guys can drop in and ask us questions live on air if that's something you want to do. But yeah, we just love it when we can engage with everyone and go ahead and answer those particular questions. Oh, I guess I should talk a little bit about, why you should be listening to me as opposed, on this random YouTube channel. So I've been a math tutor for over 10 years. I have been working with Rio Progress for the past 1 year in official capacity, a little bit longer. I've worked with various learning centers that have prepared students for PSATs and SATs. And I also worked with various nonprofits when it came to aiding students who come from either low income or challenging circumstances. And my priority and goal has always been to go ahead and ensure that everyone has a fair shot, you know? So that's my main priority, and you'll be able to see that as well. So let's go ahead and just dive into it and talk about some of the things that we can answer. Here we are. Cool. So the difference between the SAT or the ACT. We get this question a lot. So when it comes to the SAT or the ACT, you might have seen our previous streams, but the general gist is, and this is something if you're trying to just decide whether or not which test you should study for, if you are a STEM major, take the ACT. If you are going to end up pursuing a major that would very much show off your writing, if you happen to be a stronger writer, go ahead and take the SAT. And that isn't always the same for every student. Honestly, it's whichever exam you feel like you're going to be able to get the best score in is going to be the best fit for you. Because that's what the schools are looking for, right? A lot of schools go test optional, and you'll see if you follow our social media, they are quickly retracting that particular option, right? They're now saying, hey, students should be taking the SAT. They didn't like the classes that they brought in who did not take the SAT, right? So they want to make sure that, you know, students are prepared. And one of the best ways that they can do that, I mean, we could talk about the history of the SAT and the SAT and standardized testing as a whole. It's not great. But if you're going to go ahead and use any benchmark, it's going to end up being one of these to go ahead and help with that. So the main difference between the SAT or the ACT is going to be they're two different tests. From the mathematics section, they typically try to answer or, you know, ask the same things. But if we look at our slide here, we can see what our intern put together for us. Here we go. SAT focuses reasoning and critical thinking when you're looking at the math, while ACT focuses more on curriculum-based knowledge. All right, there you go, right? So if you happen to be the better keen critical thinker, go ahead and take the SAT. ACT is looking for the student who can just purely memorize and be the machine it takes to go ahead and to just continue to churn out results or answers. I was a student who was focused on entering the STEM field when I was in high school. I took the SAT simply because I felt that if I got a really, really good score there, I would definitely be able to show off more of my, you know, capability, my adaptability when it came to critical thinking and problem solving. And I wanted that because I was going to enter a major that was literally all problem solving. ACT, I recommend students who don't have that writing background, maybe didn't read as much, but who still want to go ahead and show off their keen prowess for mathematics, for science, because you do have that that additional section in the ACT you can work with. Go ahead and take the ACT. At the end of the day, if you are looking to be competitive in college admissions, take a test. And take it at least more than once. We recommend to most of our students that as long as you take the test more than once, I want to say 9 times out of 10 will get a better score, as long as, of course, you took the necessary preparations both times to study and to make improvements. So that's what we're looking at when we're talking about the SAT and the ACT. Cool. Again, go ahead, and this particular session is available here for people to hop into and to just ask additional questions. I have a few questions here set up, but I'm happy to go ahead and see additional people or additional students come in and ask your own questions as well. Cool. Let's go to the next section. When to take the SAT or the ACT? I could tell you this. There are students who are taking this exam or similar competitive exams their freshman year of high school. it's the world we live in. When you have access to a lot of academic resources, taking a test like the SAT or the ACT early on is really, really plausible, and it is encouraged. By the time you need to take the test so that it counts, man, I know of students who who are as good at taking the SAT as Steph Curry is at shooting three pointers if you are into basketball at all, right? So the best answer to this is as early as you can, but not everyone can take it as early as they can. You really want to aim to take it twice during your junior year of high school. And that is the latest that we would recommend if you are trying to be competitive in college admissions, if you're trying to be competitive for scholarships, because a lot of national merit scholarships require that you've taken the SAT, because you're going to submit your SAT scores, right? You want to be able to focus on that. Cool. Let's go ahead and go on to the next item. Well, let's go ahead and hear that. Yep. Aim for junior year, considering college deadlines and personal readiness. Just so you guys are aware, I did not review these slides before, so this is stuff that our intern helped put together. So, hey, if I'm nailing them right on, then that means there must be something true, you know? I don't know, we must be good at this or something. Okay. Next question. Materials for SAT and ACT prep. Okay. This isn't that controversial, but you've probably heard me say it on previous streams. But reading, simply reading is going to be one of the most effective. It's going to be the best strategy that anyone can take to do well on the SAT or the ACT. If you are not a student who can read, and this goes the same for the math section, right? Like you're like, oh, what does reading have to do? I'm going to be an engineer. I'm just going to be reading manuals and technical documents. No, you knowing how to read is one of the biggest indicators. I think we've, as a part of our executive director studies at University of Education, apparently you can look at someone's reading capability in third grade and dictate whether or not they're going to go to a good college or not, or or whether or not they're going to be going to or whether or not they're going to score highly on exams. It is very much something that is done early in advance that you just need to get good at. So when it comes to materials, though, both of these tests have practice tests, as well as there are practice examples. Full disclosure, when we generated some of the sample SAT questions in our previous session, we actually used a little bit of ChatGPT. Now, of course, I had to go back and make changes and edits because AI is very helpful. However, it is not always accurate, right? So I did have to go and make sure that these questions were put together. But if you are struggling to answer a particular question, the best resource that I've begun to use was a little bit of ChatGPT to help it explain why this answer is the answer, especially when you don't have a tutor or teacher around to help explain why you may have gotten an answer wrong versus right? So definitely consider that. And then of course they have the courses, they have SAT prep. Some schools offer a specific class period in which where they prep you on how to take the SAT. So there's a lot of different materials and options, but I would prioritize on the simplest ones first. When it comes to the writing or reading section of either test, read. And when it comes to the math section, practice, right? Practice tests, practice examples, and pay attention in class, because honestly, the things you're doing in class are going to be most about that. Yeah, there you go. Study guides, practice tests, and online resources for effective preparation. Yeah, that's the best way to go about this. Cool. All right. So let's talk about the duration of these tests. So when it comes to the duration of these tests, man, I haven't had to sit for one for a long time, but we did go over this in our last section. These tests are pretty long. Think a class period and a half for many of you if you have 45 to an hour class minute periods. With these exams, you want to be aware of the fact that there is a a rate of return for how long these exams are. So I'm just going to jump ahead to the answer, right? Approximately 3 to 4 hours, including breaks and optional sections. Yeah, right? Like you are basically an athlete or a marathon runner. I mean, honestly, there are people who run marathons in less time than it'll take you to complete the SAT, right? So you have to really prepare yourself sort of like an endurance um, athlete. So you want to be able to sit for the exam that long. You want to be prepared by eating a good breakfast to be able to fuel you during that time. Um, there's a lot of studies about how, again, lower blood sugar impairs brain function. Not being hydrated, not having enough water with you is going to cause issues. So you really, really, really want to be hyper attentive to the fact that these tests are long tests, and you want to be able to focus on fueling in advance for it and then practicing that type of stamina. There are students who start taking the test in freshman year of high school, so they become really, really, really good at running or taking the test. Same thing as if you want to be an endurance runner, you start early and you keep going up from there. So practice, practice, practice is going to be the critical part. All right, cool. Cool. What's a good SAT or ACT score? Perfect. Nah, just kidding. uh, what's a good SAT or ACT score? Honestly, it depends. And the reason why I say it depends is when we look at each student, a good SAT score is going to be one that your college is going to say, hey, this is competitive, right? And colleges and college board typically, right, based on their data collection efforts, based on what school they see people got accepted to. I remember what the SAT is out of. It's two 800 sections, so 1600. If you don't have more than a 1400 and you're trying to apply for an Ivy League school, it's not happening, right? Competitive SAT scores, if you are going to shoot for an Ivy League score, a good SAT score is over 1400. If not, you're just not going to cut it. It's one of the first filters out the door. But again, that's not the same for every school. So you want to be able to look at what each school is offering, right? And that's based on the average scores of admitted students for guidance, right? College Board will publicize this. When I was in high school, we had a system that showed what the SAT or ACT scores were of students who previously went to that school from my high school. So I was even able to get a little bit of better data in regards to that. So that's really important. But yeah, definitely pay attention to what your school publicizes. And again, right, there will be changes. There will be times when your SAT score may not be great the first time, right? That's okay. That's why we encourage you to take it multiple times, right? Sometimes you might be lucky and say, hey, you know what? I did really well the first time around. Great. Even if you did great the first time around, go ahead and try for a higher score, right? A higher score can only make a college application more compelling. Awesome. Optional essay section. Okay. What's our guidance on this? I think our guidance on this particular section is well, if you're going to be in the performing arts, or sorry, if you're going to be if your major requires a lot of writing, or if your future pursued, like if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, not necessarily pre-med, but definitely pre-law, poli-sci, literature, English majors, history majors, take the writing section, right? Take the essay section. It Schools will look at it. Again, schools will look at whatever you put on your application and consider it as a part of your application. So if you have something to show and to shine within that particular section, go ahead and take it, right? Yeah, also recognize that some specific colleges or some majors may require it while others don't, right? Make sure you know that in advance. But we definitely recommend any student who's trying to enter into a field in which where there's going to be a lot of writing, journalism, Many students want to become politicians, want to become lawyers. If you want to do public policy, even psychology, right? It may be best to go ahead and take that essay section, because they really want to have an understanding of your vocabulary, your inner voice, and whether or not you're going to fit into that school, right? You can definitely tell the difference between the caliber of writing from a student admitted to a Yale or a Dartmouth versus a Rutgers, for example, right? A better example would be a Princeton from a Rutgers, because they're both 30 minutes away from each other. One's a state school, one's an Ivy League, of course, right? So you want to make sure that when you are considering the essay section, you've gone ahead and said, does my major require it? Does my college require it? Will it make me look good? If it doesn't make you look good, it's not it, Chief. All right. We're going to keep cruising along. I think this particular session is going to be short. I hope you guys don't mind it, but hey, if you guys have more questions, you could always go to reoprogress.org and go ahead and try and connect with us. We have tons of contact information made available, so go ahead and take a look at it that way. Retaking SAT or ACT? Yes, do it. I believe even for students, if you're worried about the fee and you have fee waivers, I believe you have at least more than one fee waiver that you could use for the SAT. That is so important. If we look at like average score increase after taking the SAT the first time to the second time, you're gonna see massive improvements, especially because the first time you're probably a lot more stressed out. The nerves are there. There's a lot to consider. It's gonna be a little bit harder. So taking it the second time will definitely help you get accustomed to the test. It'll help you iron out or identify what sections you struggled in so you can plan better, right? There is nothing like taking the test. So make sure to take the test. Take it as often as you feel necessary. For many students, we say at least twice, right? But yeah, go ahead and definitely take the SAT. And yeah, consider preparation in college score policies. Yeah, so I don't know if this is still a practice, but one of the things that I was able to do was, as a part of my SAT, was I was able to split my scores. So previously, back when I took the SAT, well, first of all, I am boomer. So again, I am talking about the olden days when we had to, when we got penalized for getting a wrong answer on the SAT, right? It was -1 point. But again, that's why, I really had to focus on studying and taking the SAT well. But the idea was, because of that potential up and down and fluctuation, because you might lose a point for getting a question wrong, when in fact you should have just left it blank, right? Basically, what colleges said was, hey, we don't necessarily care what you got on this one test. We just care if you took it multiple times, what the highest score was from each of the tests. So that's where the college score policies came to favor me, because the first time I was able to get a really, really great math score, absolutely terrible essay section, and then on my retake, I was able to just focus on getting a better reading and essay section score. So that's really, really important there. So consider that for sure. Awesome. Sending scores to colleges. Ooh, this is one of our favorite conversations. And of course, I have a guest here in the background. Is someone watching? Is someone here? Oh, it's just our executive director in her flip-flops. I can see you. Yeah. Hello. What's the conversation? Sending scores to colleges. I don't think they can hear you. Let me see. Try talking.
Who's on?
No one right now. There it is. Yeah, this is our little microphone. It's all right, guys. We're going to improve our live streaming stuff later on.
What do you mean our quality isn't already Harvard level?
What? What's that?
High quality.
I didn't go there. I didn't go there. She did. I didn't go there.
I want to hear what you're going to say about sending scores to colleges.
I feel like it's automatic, right? Like you basically just when you take the SAT, you get your scores and you check off, boom, 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 boom. These are the schools I want to send my scores to, right? Yeah, you could just hop in there. Yeah.
Will they hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Hold on.
This is a little.
So kind of. You can do that when you're taking the SAT. If you already know what schools you're applying to, you can
Mm-hmm.
select them.
Mm-hmm.
However, some of you are going to be taking the SAT before you know what schools you want to apply to. So you can send them later. You add them on College Board. Through their platform, you put in what schools you want to send them to.
Sure.
You also may not want to, even if you know where you're applying, send them automatically so that you have a choice in whether or not you send them. Because some schools are test optional.
Oh, but we talked about that already. Like, you're gonna want to send.
If they're good.
Yeah.
But
if
you
they're
don't know
good.
if they're good until you get them back.
Oh.
So you
yeah, you're
should
right.
not automatically send them to everywhere.
Yeah.
I would wait until you get your scores to decide if you send them. You can always add them afterwards. You can also add them, edit your decisions within, I think, like a week after taking the test.
Sure.
So if you did say you were going to send them and then you get to the test and you realize that went really bad, I don't even need my scores. I already know that I bombed it.
Yeah.
Or conversely, I feel really great about it. I didn't think I would do great, but I feel confident. Then you can change your decision within a week
Okay.
and
fair.
edit those.
Okay, that's not too
Glad
bad.
I came in to
I know,
clear
right?
stuff up.
Yeah, I was barely making it across through all of this stuff. So let me see. Let's go back to the presentation. Yeah, sending scores to colleges. What did we say? Yeah, College Board or ACT websites with additional fees for extra reports. Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely.
There's also fee waivers, so don't let the fees for extra reports stop you from waiting to send your scores.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Cool. And then finally, let's go ahead and talk about accommodations for disabilities. This one's interesting. I'm not prepared to answer this one. I was just going to go to the next slide, but do you know anything in particular that might be useful?
If you already receive accommodations, the people who are in charge of giving you those accommodations, so whether it's your SPED coordinator, your 504 counselor, any of your teachers or counselors can also guide you to who the right person to talk to about this is, but they're the ones that can help you figure out which accommodations you will qualify for. Oftentimes the rule is that you have to have already been receiving those accommodations in school for them to count for the SAT.
Okay.
So you can't get a new accommodation just for the SAT, but I do believe they offer things like extra time. Some of them also offer like alternative testing sites. So if being in a, big crowded room is not going to work for you, they may be able to accommodate that. But a lot of this is also changing with the digital SAT. So talk to your teachers, talk to your counselors. They're going to be the ones that are able to guide you best in terms of how your accommodations translate for the SAT.
Got it. And is there a route students can go if they if they don't necessarily have an accommodation that they have at school, but they'd like to apply for the SAT?
I would check in with College Board and reach out to their help section and talk to them about it. I wouldn't say it's likely, but it's worth a shot because it might be something that helps you out.
Cool. Awesome. That definitely works. And let's see. The answer is, there you go. Oh, Braille materials. There you go. I didn't know that. Perfect. That's good to know.
I imagine with the digital SAT, it'll be more like read aloud.
Yeah, and I think with the you're right, and that would be actually a lot easier than you just answer using cursors action. Perfect. Okay, scoring. So this one's interesting. I think the straight up and down is both use scaled scoring with points for correct answers and no penalties for incorrect ones. Which I keep saying, I am boomer. I am so salty because back in my day, when we got a wrong answer, we lost points.
You had to do math.
Oh,
Like we had to be
yeah.
is this worth the 1/4 incorrect point?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It was like man, trading stocks is easier.
Yeah, because they wouldn't even take off a full point. They would take off a quarter point. They would take off a quarter point for the SAT.
Oh yeah, you're right. And then there
for
was
wrong answers.
Yeah, and then for leaving it blank, there was 0 points. It was like trying to it's like trying to play like what's a game similar to that? Oh, it's like Jeopardy. It's like
Kind
if
of.
you miss the answer, you lose.
Yeah, like
that
double
amount.
or nothing vibes.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Y'all lucky
so
kids.
just a note here in case they don't know already. The ACT maximum score is a 36. The SAT maximum score is a 1600 currently. the SAT likes to change all the time.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll still be true, when you're watching this.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
I can't vouch for College Board.
Yeah.
But those are the scores. If you're wondering what the maximum score is, that's it. And then as for what you should be aiming for, that's definitely something to schedule time with us about. And based on the schools you're interested in, based on the places you're applying, be something good to figure out your goal.
Sounds good. Awesome. And then finally, we can go ahead and talk about canceling SAT or ACT scores. Is it possible? Is it something we can even do? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. They're not reported. Okay, so
This is what I'm talking about with the week that you have after you take the SAT.
got it.
That's one of the things you can do. You can cancel your scores within a certain time frame, not forever. And really the trick is that you're going based off vibes. So you might feel like you did horrible and you actually did great, and vice versa. So it's something to be careful with. You don't want to just go willy-nilly canceling every single score. But really think about yourself, the test you took, and how well prepared you were for it or not. And then based on that, make the decision.
Awesome. Any last minute tips, reminders for what? If you're a junior right now, it's March. There's the May SAT coming up, and then maybe you might have another shot
August,
in
September.
August, September. So any tips or recommendations for those students right now?
Read.
I told you. I told you. I know my stuff.
It's really the only thing that you can do that's besides practicing, right, and doing your test questions and all that fun stuff. A lot of what kids mess up on the SAT, especially the reading section, is vocabulary. There's no quick way to learn vocabulary. I know some people listen to podcasts that just read words out loud to them. It's not going to work if you're not using them in real life.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that you can kind of skirt around that is by reading them. So read a lot, read anything. You can read newspapers, magazines, books. If books are not your jam, read product descriptions, anything that's been professionally edited. So maybe not Reddit, but pretty much everything else, fair game. Up your vocabulary. And then practice those math questions. I know Phil's done a great job with his lesson on how to do those math questions, but practice the speed.
Yeah, and it's the practicing on how do you prioritizing. It's time management really when it comes to the math. You just want to focus on the questions you're going to be able to answer right first, and then take a gamble on the rest. You're going to increase your odds of doing well again, because if you don't know the answer anyway, you might as well use process of elimination to pick two you like, and then boom.
That's the beauty of them not having a penalty anymore. They can at least.
I'm not salty. I'm not salty. I'm not
I am.
salty. Yeah. I know I am. All right. Awesome. Well, that's pretty much it. Is there anything else?
I think you probably covered it at the beginning, but
yeah.
remember to get a good night's sleep beforehand. Don't
Yep.
forget your ID. I've seen people get kicked out and not be allowed in because they forgot their ID.
Yeah, that's
So,
important. Yeah.
I would pack everything you need the day before. Have it by the door so that as you're leaving, you remember. Set an
Yeah.
alarm that says, don't forget your things. Bring snacks, bring water. Turn off your phones. I know some of you think that my phone never rings. They're not going to catch me with it on.
Yeah.
They might.
They
so
might.
turn it off.
Yeah.
Turn it in. Do the whole thing.
Cool.
Take it seriously. It matters.
Yep.
Not for everything. It's not the only thing that matters,
True.
but it can help. So do your best on it and do your best to be prepared for it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Faye.
You're welcome, y'all.
That's it for us. Thanks, y'all. Stream done. Bye.